Ready to go.
Hey everyone, welcome aboard. My name is Raymond and I'm a technical educator here at Shopify for the Dev Degree program. And my pronouns are he/him. Now, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about something very, very important, and that's called imposter syndrome. But before we begin talking about imposter syndrome, I want to talk to you about what the Dev Degree program is about. And it's actually a really cool program where we work with really early talent folks to build the next generation of software developers. But instead of me explaining about this, I'm just going to go let this 1-minute video talk about it for me.
We need to put the sound. Raymond, the sound is not working.
Oh, sound's not working?
No.
Weird. I can hear on my side. Let me see if... Weird. Well, maybe I can just talk about it then. So pretty much Dev Degree is a 3 to 4 years work integrated learning program that we partner with 3 universities across the US and Canada, where students will attend university for about 3 courses per term, including the summertime, and then work 25 hours a week with us. And in their first year, they'll be going through what we like to call the training path, which is what I'm a part of, where you're going to be learning everything you need to use and the tools to prepare yourself for your very first development placement. So in the first 8 months, you'll be with me. We'll be working, learning a lot of things, and building cool things along the way. And the fun part about the Dev Degree program is, like, Shopify is gonna pay for your salary. It's gonna pay you your tuition and any paid vacation days. So at the end of the 3 to 4 years, once you complete the program, that is going to be about $160,000 in value. And the best part is, though, you just don't graduate with just a resume. With a degree. You graduate with a resume, and you have about 2 years of full-time work experience through Shopify. So it's a really amazing program, and that's why I say a bit earlier, we're helping build the next generation of software developers. But enough about that. Let's go back to the imposter syndrome talk. Now, this is more of I just want to let everybody know this is anecdotal. So what this means is this is not a suggestion or a prescription on managing any mental health. So let's talk about what is imposter syndrome. So pretty much imposter syndrome is an inability to accept accomplishments and a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud. So an example of this is am I the best fit for this role? I'm not satisfied with this until it's perfect. And even being afraid of speaking up during meetings out of fear of being exposed as a fraud. These are just common things that you can feel just through imposter syndrome. And it's actually very common to feel imposter syndrome when you're switching jobs or roles. And one thing I would like to say, tell everybody, is imposter syndrome will happen throughout your lifetime. It will never go away, but the best thing we can do is minimize the impact of it. Because when we feel it, it's actually learning opportunities and learning growth that we're actually experiencing. And sure, it will have that very overwhelming feeling, but at the same time, it's also a sign of hey, let's grow together and let's just learn as much as we can. And the more we learn is because we're just joining a new company and we don't have as much information compared to others, for example. But over time, we will have that. And as you learn more and more and get familiar with things in your own role, you'll get comfortable, and the imposter syndrome will be reduced. So what I want to share today is actually my story about how I experienced imposter syndrome in my first job. And I work as a software developer for another e-commerce company before my current company right here. So in my first job, I was actually new to programming. It's like my very first job coming out right out of university. And I work as a software developer. And when I joined, like it was great meeting new people, like software developers, and like I didn't really know what to expect actually in my role. Like it was very overwhelming because I'm working with like many different people with many different levels of experience. And honestly, I was very outside my comfort zone because everybody had more context and, as I said before, experience than me. So as I was working as a software developer, we have this thing called a pull request and a code review like routine where we are assigned a ticket, we work through that ticket, and after that, we're gonna go open up a pull request that other people, usually a senior member of the team, will review and give you feedback on to improve. Now, here's the thing. I feel like each comment that someone put on my pull request, for example, might actually expose me as a fraud. And honestly, I was actually afraid of showing weakness. Being new to the industry, for example, coming out of school, I kind of have a bit of an ego where it's like, I was just afraid of like showing others that I was a fraud. Like I should know this, for example. And that actually made me be more hard on myself. And I actually kept apologizing to my colleagues, even though I did nothing wrong. I was there to learn, but I was still like overwhelmed by like not knowing enough, for example. And it made me think like I wasn't living to their standards. And I didn't even know how to or even when to ask for help when I struggled. But after a while, I got more and more comfortable and less afraid of screwing up. But months later, actually, I got moved to another team. And it was fine for a bit, but I really struggled with a ticket that I got assigned, and I actually greatly underestimated it. At first, I only spent the daytime work on it. So that's like, typical 9 to 5, but then it included nights and then the weekends. And I was struggling. It was burning me out. And I honestly should have taken a break and then tackle it when I was more awake instead of working into the nights on that. Like my one-on-one, which is kind of like a meeting with your lead to discuss how you're doing, became irregular and also spontaneous. And honestly, the imposter syndrome made me feel like afraid to ask for help until I had a complete solution. But once I finished the ticket, I was really burned out and I felt like I really did a bad job. And at that point, I really feel like I did not belong in tech. Like, I honestly, like, if I learn what I learned now, I definitely need a break. Like, even if I'm struggling, like, try to take a break and try to separate, like, try not work into the nights. That's definitely one thing I learned, because instead of healing, the habits that I got into during that project stay with me, and I continue working into the nights and the weekends. And my level of stress honestly impacted like negatively my productivity, my eating habits, and I actually struggle setting healthy boundaries. So just to kind of like recap, this is what I experienced in that role is I didn't want to be exposed as a fraud. Like, as I mentioned before, like I kept apologizing to my colleagues, even though I shouldn't. And there was nothing wrong. It was more like each comment they gave me, I was really just afraid of showing weakness. I was too hard on myself. Where like I just graduated from school. I just felt like I already should know this, for example. But instead of focusing on learning, I was way too harsh on myself and try to be perfect. And the third one is I overworked myself. So I spent my weekends, my nights just working on tickets that I was struggling on and other tickets afterwards. And I should have set healthy boundaries there. But if you want, for you, the audience right here, if you want to know about potential signs though, about imposter syndrome, here are some to help reduce, start to look out for actually. For example, one thing I just mentioned before, you're overworking. Try to set yourself healthy boundaries on that. The second one is, feeling overwhelmed. So as I said, like when you start a new job or even new role, you will feel overwhelmed because you're like, wow, this person has so much experience. Or like, am I the right fit for this job? Like there's just so much going on. Another one is being like a perfectionist. Like people always say practice makes perfect, but at the same time though, we always can't aim for perfect. The other one is comparing yourself to others. And I did that, unfortunately, where I try to compare myself to another person. It's because I'm like, I want to be like this person. So how do I get there? And it negatively impacted me, where I felt like, am I really myself? Am I really Raymond? And that's where I really felt like a fraud. And lastly, I wasn't really confident in myself. I didn't really celebrate any wins or anything to like really help like keep myself a healthy like boundaries or anything. I felt like with my struggle, it just kept getting worse, and I just lost a lot of confidence in myself. And overall, it wasn't healthy. But how did I work towards like, overcoming these imposter syndromes? So, years after, like I kind of did a huge self-reflection, and I reflected back saying, like these are these are things that I'm doing right now that is actually helping me manage my own imposter syndrome in my current role. But luckily for you, let me share them with you. So the first one is keep a win list. And this is also known as like a bragging list, for example, where it just contains like a list of all your wins over the years. For example, like, talking here today for Revolution is the win in my books, for example. And that's what I'm going to add on later tonight as my win. And whenever I'm feeling sad or I need to look back to like my wins, that's the place to look at it, because it allows me to just look at it and realize that, hey, I'm still growing and also learning. But I did a lot of amazing stuff. The second one is give yourself positive affirmations. So as you saw with like my burnout and my imposter syndrome, I was stressed, I was hard on myself, which didn't really help at all. And actually, a good mentor of mine told me to give myself positive affirmations like, you got this, or you're awesome. And actually on my wall behind me, behind this video, I actually wrote a positive affirmation to help set a positive mindset whenever I'm about to start work or just when I'm feeling down. And I would read out loud the positive affirmation on my wall, which is, you got this. And honestly, it's one of the best things I have ever done. Now, the next one is, because Revolution, you're focusing on teenagers to like young adults, for example, where instead of defining your core working hours, let's try to set yourself a really healthy school life balance. So for myself, I work fully remote. So I try to define my own hours and separate my own work with my life. So I try keeping a boundary between that. So if I'm very exhausted, for example, after a long day of meetings, or it's a really nice day, I will call it early. But for those saying like a school life balance, try have some me time for yourself in there. Like maybe like there's like a really awesome show that you want to watch for an hour, or maybe like you want to dedicate 2 hours, for example, a week or maybe per day on playing your favorite video game. Like go for it. Like the world's your oyster. But make sure to try to like set yourself like healthy boundaries. Because nowadays, like when I feel like it's my core hours are up, for example, I like to go have fun by either going for a run, biking, gaming, or even watching my own favorite shows. The next one is you want to organize your day with a set agenda. Now, I know for some high schools, well, back in my day, we were given agendas, but I'm not too sure about right now. But if you do get an agenda, yeah, organize your day with a set agenda. I was actually never a person who used my agenda at all. But as I started working and like being in the industry a bit more, I found that I need to keep myself organized, and that's how I work best. And what this does is it actually helps me keep track of what I need to get done instead of relying on muscle memory and also any potential like meetings, like a daily stand-up, for example, where I will meet with other people to go over what I'm about to work on today. And to really keep myself organized, I actually use a very lightweight version of bullet journaling, where I will write in a journal and like about what meetings I have, what I'm going to be working on today, and any appointments I have. That way I know exactly what I need to get done for today. And if there's any meetings that get canceled, move, I cross it out. But if there's something I can't get done for the day, I actually will just move it over to the next day. So I know exactly what I need to get done. And that organization really helped like my own mental focus on like knowing that I'm doing the best that I can. Now, the next one here is actually a saying from one of my favorite books called The Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it's about getting 1% better daily. So this book, The Atomic Habits, actually talks about if we get 1% better each day, we'll continuously improve in small increments. And by the end of the year, you'll be 37 times better than when we started. But how? By focusing on the process rather than the actual end goal. So for example, if my goal is to run, let's say 5 in 5 minutes, a kilometer, for example, like under 5 minutes in like a 3K run, for example, I will not think about the end goal, which is try to finish everything less than 15 minutes. I'll actually focus on my own like process. It's like, how do I pace myself properly? Are there any areas where I can maybe like shave off some time? And how's like my nutrition, for example, like all these, like the process to building up to like try to get to your end goal. I try to focus on that because at the end of the day, when you focus on your process, you're actually indirectly / working on your end goal, which is going to like help you a lot better. So at the end of the day, when you achieve your goal, like I didn't really think about this, but all I really did is work on my process. I'm like, wow, I improved a lot on this. And trust me, it's amazing. And for me, like I try keeping this more of like a routine, because it's all about the commitment to yourself. So if you're trying to get 1% better each day, it's good to try to set up a routine for that. So one routine that might look like, for example, is if you're trying to learn how to code. So the first thing you can do as a routine is, hey, I'm going to code for half an hour, for example. Then I'm going to spend about 10 minutes looking at my own code to see, hey, did I miss anything? What can I do to like, improve this? And then after that, refactor my own code for about 20 minutes. And you do this over time every day, you realize that, hey, like if I'm learning how to code, I got better because each day I try to code something and then I reflect back to my own code and then I rewrote my own code to improve it. And it's all about setting that routine up, because that routine will help set up that end results for you. It's all about working on that process. And trust me, as I said before, like the more you do this, the more you will realize over time you improved a lot. And finally, this is one of my favorites. You want to keep a social chat going. So I actually have a social chat with a group of my coworkers just to talk about Taylor Swift, for example, because she's awesome. And it's super relaxing, actually. So we just chat more about her, like her albums, her songs. Like it's just amazing. And I also can go to them, for example, for support and even guidance when I'm feeling down. And I also have another social chat actually with people I onboarded with. And we do this bi-weekly, and it's just really good because all we really talk about is life. And it really give us like, I won't gonna use the Taylor Swift like song title for this, but it really gave us like a blank space. Like just being able to like just go in, just have fun, just chat with other people, just like relax. But now, I would like to stop the recording because I want to do a quick fun activity with everybody here. Oh, I can actually, no, I can't.